A couple of years ago, ASUS stood out with the Zenfone 10. It was compact, it was something a little different, and it was actually pretty well received. And then last year, ASUS did away with the small form factor with the Zenfone 11 Ultra, and this time is the turn of the 12 Ultra, and this is kind of like the AI phone that no one asked for. Let's get the basics out the way first, and I have to say that this sage green on the Zenfone 12 Ultra has to be one of my favorite colors that I've seen in a phone in a long time. The matte back, side rails and camera housing with that slight little gloss on it I think looked really refined, and if you don't necessarily like the green, it comes in ebony black and sakura white, which has more of a pinkish tone to it, but this green is by far the best looking colour in my opinion. And hardware-wise, this even stacks up pretty well. There's a 144Hz 6.7-inch OLED, which I have to say actually looks really good when you're watching content or flicking through pictures that you might have taken. It has 512 gigs of storage, which is great, and it's also slightly lighter than last year's Zenfone 11 Ultra at 220 grams. Powering it is the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which puts it in line with a lot of other phones that are using the same SoC, but this also stacks up pretty well in its gaming performance with the ROG Phone 9, which is expected as they're pretty similar phones. It does also make the battery on this just last. Like, trying to kill it is actually really hard. It's the same 5,500 mAh battery as last year, but so far, with me taking pictures on this as much as I can and just doing the testing that I do for a review, this just hasn't seemed to die on me at all yet. And any phone that can get to the end of the day easily is good by me. And in fact, the Zenfone 12 Ultra, thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Elite, even gets into a second day, which is absolutely what we need. The software experience I really like because it's pretty much stock Android, and I feel like that isn't really much in the way of bloatware either. It runs Android 15 out the box, and it has a few cool features as well, like Video Genie that lets you stop notifications when you're watching a video, and it even lets you play videos in the background. When you're gaming, you also get the Game Genie, which is pretty familiar because we've seen this on ROG phones before, but it's nice that this is in here as well. Where ASUS though has really tried to win people over this year is with the AI that it's put into the phone, and there is so much AI, it's kind of exhausting. This is a list of AI features that we have. We have AI portrait video, AI tracking, AI voice clarity, AI magic fill, AI unblur, AI panning shots, AI document scanner, AI call translator, AI noise cancellation, AI transcript, AI article summary, AI document summary, circle to search, semantic search, and AI wallpapers. There are so many AI features that it's kind of unnecessary. The saving grace here is that some of these AI features work pretty well, like document scanner, which I don't know if you can count as AI. The call translator kind of works pretty well, but you have to download the language that you know that you're going to need before the call starts. There's AI web page summary, which again, it works well, but this is just very slow. And AI unblur, which I think is a cool feature, didn't seem to really work that well. So you can see a photo that is blurred here on the left, and then on the right is AI unblur, and it doesn't really do much. AI magic fill is an AI feature that you expect to just work fairly well, and it just doesn't on the Zenfone 12 Ultra. So if you circle an item, I'll show you now, if you circle something, it just replaces that with another object, which is a little bit pointless. So now look, I've tried to circle a lamppost, and you'll see that it won't actually get rid of that lamppost. Instead, it will just replace it with something else, and that's kind of defeating the object of AI magic fill. I could go through all of these AI features and tell you which ones work really well and which ones just need a little bit of work, but there just isn't enough time in the world for that. And you know what makes this worse? Now, I asked ASUS how many years of software updates you're going to get on the Zenfone 12 Ultra, and they told me you're going to get a minimum of 2 OS updates. And in a world where you're getting 7 from Samsung and Google, this just doesn't seem quite right, and I don't quite understand why ASUS are not giving us a good amount of time with its software updates. And I hadn't even told you the price of this yet, so wait for it. It's 1,099 euros, and I just think that that price makes this so difficult to recommend to anybody, especially when you can get phones like a Pixel 9 Pro for less and get 7 years of support. ASUS really haven't done themselves any favors here. Let me briefly tackle cameras here, and it's the same setup as last year with its 3 cameras. And these are mostly okay. There isn't anything that these cameras do that really stands out. The main lens gives you some nice looking photos, dynamic range seems to look pretty nice, and there's enough detail in these images where you can look at these and be happy. The colours are actually pretty natural, but it doesn't really do anything special. And then, to be honest, everything that I just mentioned then applies to the ultra-wide and the 3x telephoto as well, where the details on the telephoto are actually pretty good, but anything beyond that 3x becomes a little messy. So you have a look at photos at 10x or 30x, and these really aren't that usable. I should also mention that when I was taking photos of objects that were close to the 3x telephoto camera, it really struggled to get focus, which I'm not sure why this was happening, but it would just kind of like grab focus for a second and then lose it, and it was really hard to take any photos of anything with that 3x lens if the subject was close.
Let me talk to you quickly about the video on the Zenfone 12 Ultra, and this gives me a good opportunity to try out the AI voice isolation because there's some really loud running water next to me. But I said last year that video was confusing on the 11 Ultra, and it still is on the 12 Ultra because you can record up to 8K, which I think is great. But the problem is when you come to record at 4K 60, you can't do any other lens except that main lens, which is a bit annoying. And the same for when you do 4K 30, you can only do the ultra wide or the main lens, but you can't do that telephoto lens. And for me, I just don't understand why ASUS have done this. It kind of just makes no sense.
Having said that though, the video at 4K looks generally okay, and the picture is sharp and the details it captures are actually pretty good. The stabilization is also really nice because it has that 6-axis hybrid gimbal that really smooths out any sort of jitters that you might make when recording video with this. The problem with the Zenfone 12 Ultra is that it doesn't really do anything that stands it out amongst other phones at that price point. I mean, this is €1,099, and yeah, there's early bird pricing at €999, but still, it has to do something really special if it's in that sea of premium phones, and it just doesn't. Yeah, the battery is great and the software experience is fine, but sadly, you get things like an optical fingerprint reader, which you just shouldn't be getting at that price point. And even the photos, they're just okay. But what lets this down more than anything is the fact that you might only get 2 years of software updates. Like, this is almost impossible to recommend it to anybody, especially when you can go and get a Pixel 9 Pro for the exact same price. If ASUS just listened and went back to that smaller form factor like they did have with the Zenfone 10, then I feel like that there might just be a little bit more interest in this, and people might genuinely just want to pick it up because they want a smaller form factor. But again, at this price point and what it offers, for me, I just don't think it's enough. But let me know what you think. Do you think ASUS have done enough with the Zenfone 12 Ultra, or do you think it's in this middle ground where you can't really recommend it to anybody to buy? Well, before you head off, make sure you subscribe to the Android Authority YouTube channel, and if you do that, then I'll see you in the next video.